Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Own Your Problems from Dandapani. So this is a very short video, but at the same time I think it's something, well, hopefully quite important. Do I believe you should own your own problems? Absolutely, because when you own your own problems, you have control over those problems. Now, granted, you can't always fix those problems, but you can do something about it. It's not to say that fixing is one of them. It can be, but also just not dealing with it. Now, of course, it all depends on what that problem is. Generally speaking, if you have no control over a problem, it's not your problem necessarily. I mean, don't get me wrong, it can still be your problem. But when you own it, you can somewhat manipulate it at the very least. At the very least, you can manipulate it. And also, it gives you control. That's the biggest thing that I really, whenever I read this, it's like, hopefully it talks about how when you own your own problems, you have control over them to some degree. It doesn't have to be that you fix it, even though that's the ultimate outcome, but at the very least, you can mitigate a lot of it. Let's go ahead and get started.
When I lived with my guru in the monastery, he put 100% of responsibility back on me. He said, all suffering and happiness in my life is a result of my own creation. Take responsibility. And nowadays you hear spiritual people say like, oh, the universe will guide me and the universe will do this. And take responsibility for your life. Own up. Own all the shortcomings in your life. Own all the positive things in your life.
And actually, speaking about what he said about how you in a sense, you are the creator of your own happiness. That's not the word he said. He just essentially said that you own up everything that happens in your life. Very true. It goes along the lines of what Sadhguru has said about how if someone makes you angry, or let me say, if someone does something and it makes you angry, that's you doing it to yourself. Because that same thing that someone does, someone else could look at it and like, it doesn't affect them. So clearly it's something to deal with you, your body, your mind, your emotions. When you get angry because of what someone else does, look inwards. Don't get me wrong. And someone's gonna say, "What if someone punches you?" Well, yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Like I definitely want to know what Sadhguru Acharya Prashant Swami Sarvapriyananda would say. Are they going to say turn the other cheek, or are they say punch the person back? I don't know. I don't think punching the person back is the way to go, but probably showing love more than likely. But look, I get it. You know, if you punch the person back, I ain't gonna blame you. You know, I don't know why you punched you in the first place unless you deserved it for some weird reason. But you know, generally speaking. But yes, verbal stuff, things that happen around you, all on you. Non-physical. Physical is a different story, but in terms of at the very least, non-physical stuff is all on you. Again, I like to talk practicality. You being punched in the face, yes, of course you can get mad. You're gonna be like, "What the heck happened?" Not gonna blame you there. That's something to work on for sure. But at least in the non-physical stuff, someone says something, someone does something. You get mad. You have to look inwards. You have to have control over your body.
Take responsibility, and as soon as you take 100% ownership, you can start to make changes. But as soon as you say this victim mode of like, oh, life, and you don't understand, it's more complicated, it's this, it's that. Yeah, of course it is. That's why you never make progress. You have to own it. I look at myself and I go like, Dandapani has a lot of problems and also a lot of good things. It's okay. I can own all of it, and I can start to work on those things and make changes slowly. But I don't blame anybody for all my shortcomings, all my negativity. I own it 100%.
He owns it 100%. So don't get me wrong. To say that there could be some partial blame, to some degree, maybe. Obviously, the more that you can blame yourself on something, the more control and the more you can, generally speaking, do something about it. Especially if it's mostly your fault. You decided to eat breakfast that day and you smelt that milk and it smelt bad, but you decided to pour it anyway because you're hungry and you ate it, and then all of a sudden your stomach feels funny later on. the more that you can blame yourself on that one, the more you can say, next time I smell the milk and it smells that bad, I am not going to eat it no matter how hungry I am. I will try something else. Again, this is a little bit of a joke, but at the same time, you understand what I'm trying to say. That is mostly your choice. Someone could convince you of something, someone that you trust. You could put a partial blame on them, but ultimately you still made that decision. You listened to that person's advice, and then you said, you know what, I will do this. Like, I guess you could put partial blame on me, but at the same time, you know what, you have to take responsibility for your actions. I don't know, I'm trying to think of situations where it makes sense to, and what I want to do a partial blame is it's obviously we as human beings, anything sometimes happen to us, we tend to blame other people for the most part. Not all the time, of course. If you understand that, it's like if someone, how do I say, if someone convinces you to buy something and all of a sudden it just fails, or for whatever reason, you'll blame that person mostly. But when in reality, when you think about it, you ultimately made a decision. This is what I'm talking about, where practicality happens, where we obviously blame other people because we were fooled or convinced by them, but we don't realize that we ultimately made a decision. Now, partial blame is kind of like, well, yes, I listened to the person, I made up my mind, he lied to me, he played me for a fool. I can blame that person a little bit, but actually I have to remember that ultimately I make the decision. The ultimate goal is to always say, you know what, he played me for a fool, it is my fault, I take full responsibility for my actions. It's a progress to get to that point of taking full responsibility. You know, it's kind of like, what is it, quitting something cold turkey. You know, when you're so used to doing something, just work your way to the betterment of yourself. So again, blaming the other person for fooling you, to he really fooled me, he was an a-hole. I blame him partially, but it was mostly my fault, to the point where he's like, you know what, I remember what happened last time from someone else. I fell for it again. Different kind of scenario, but same situation. It's all my fault now. It's a progression. I mean, again, as long as you're making progressions to better yourself, I think it's okay. You can't just all of a sudden just like, it's my fault. You know, it's a bit weird because it's not a progression, and you just all of a sudden went cold turkey. Some people can do that, can go from 0 to 100, but I think it could be easier if you do partial blames, but at the same time, you know, be realistic about what you blame, how you blame, and when you do blame someone else, understand why you're blaming someone else about it. It's like, he fooled me, he tricked me. That's kind of, you know, that's kind of bad. He shouldn't have done that, but at the same time, I fell for it. I have to be better. I have to take responsibility for my actions. So at that point, you like, next time I hear that person, or next time I talk to that person, I don't trust a single word that person says. There you go. Now you take full responsibility. If you ever listen to that person again, you take their advice, you get tricked by them again, that's 100% on you, because you had to deal with them once before and then you fell for it again. So again, first time falling for stuff, maybe if you have to realize for yourself where you're at in this path. I hope these are decent advice. I'm trying to throw things out there that the way I look at it. I understand that people can't go from 0 to 100 right away. I know most people in the world, it's a progression thing. You know, we obviously blame other people for stuff that happens to us, even though we made a decision, but we don't realize this. And then to have people at the very least realize that they are in control of their life, they are in control of their decision, and the fact that whenever they fall for stuff, it is in fact because they chose to do this, that next time it happens, they have hopefully the wisdom to not fall for it again. Otherwise, they're going to keep playing victim, 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 because they keep falling for it over and over again. That's the reason why I wanted to watch this video, is because there is a lot of people out there, I don't know if this is the majority, hopefully it's not, that don't own their own problems, and they end up becoming they have a victim mentality. I'm not saying all people who are victims play the victim mentality, but there are a lot more people out there than real victims that have a victim mentality. It's really sad. It's genuinely sad. Anyways, that's my reaction to own your own own your problems. Not your own problems, but own your problems. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.